This is the infotainment system that you're going to find inside of the Polestar 3, and it's got a very similar setup in a few other Polestar vehicles with the functionality. But let's dive in and I'll show you everything that you need to know. So first thing, this is typically the home screen that you're going to be met with. You've got a series of buttons along the top side of the screen, so you've got your current time, the outside temperature, along with your user profile. So you can tap that in order to pull up this, which is going to let you switch between profiles. One of the benefits is that if you have presets set up, phones connected, things like that, it's going to lock it into your profile. You'd even be able to set up each individual key fob for your vehicle, and then you can also connect the Polestar phone app inside of the ride too, which gives you a few other capabilities. But you can easily search between profiles there, change them out, edit information about your user profile name, things like that, and out from there. You've got your notification icon along the very top, so if updates were available, if there are any other notifications available, or you can just clear all as necessary or tap, so you can swipe up or down as necessary there. You can see whether or not there's a phone on the wireless charge pad there, so if we take that phone off for a second, you'll see that disappear. And then from there, you've also got your current connection levels on top of that. Now, this infotainment system is based off of the Google Android operating system. So it's Android based, which means that you've got Google Maps built in, the Playstore to let you download different apps and things like that. And then if we dive through the screen, like there are so many things that you need to know. Along the bottom part of the screen, you've also got a series of other icons here too. So you've got your radio there, you've got your range. So these are essentially the apps that were last opened. Just under that, there's another tray. So you can go full screen map if you'd like to. Hit this in order to go to available applications inside of the vehicle, download apps, look at your user manual. You can tap climate in order to adjust out your heated steering wheel, ventilated or heated first row seats. You can sync up the driver's or the passenger side to whatever the driver's side is. So if we just sync that up, and then you can adjust the passenger side climate there too, minimize those, or tap this in order to jump into all of your available climate settings. You can have it automatically figure out what the climate should be, what the fan speed should be. You can do it manually. You can toggle it off from there. You can control, do you want it going to your windshield, face, feet, etc. AC going, heater, you can adjust out the rear climate there too. So people in the back can adjust it out themselves. There's your air quality available here too. Let's do while using the app. So what it's going to do is figure out what things are like outside, because there is an available air purifier inside of this ride. So it just makes the cabin incredibly clean. You can look at air quality and pollen that are available too, so it can let you know what the outside is like for the day. Got some options for parking there too. So where this comes into play is if you want to keep the vehicle running for a short period of time. So you can keep the climate active. You can also add in a timer for the start of the drive. So if you have a tendency to leave at the same time every morning, so let's say 7:30 in the morning, Monday to Friday, you could then save that, which means that we've got this timer now. So 7:30 Monday to Friday, you've got your climate going, and then it'll be in the auto mode. So the vehicle is going to figure out what the best possible climate is going to be based off of the outside temperature. You can easily toggle these off, on, etc. Go back inside in order to save or create additional timers. You can tap there in order to have your different climate settings active there as well. And then you've got factory navigation. So let's dive in there. So it is Google based. You can easily do a pinch to zoom this way, move in and out as necessary. You can zoom in and out this way, bring it back onto you. You can search using your voice there, but there's also a voice command prompt on the steering wheel. So on the right pad, if you tap the upper button there, navigate to Tim Hortons.
There's a Tim Hortons 0.3 kilometers away. Navigate to that one.
So choosing one a little bit further away, because you can see there are multiple routes that are available. So if you were to tap this, you could choose between whichever route option you'd like to take. So we selected one there. You could exit out of that route, tap search again to see the addresses that we previously searched for, and then look at any additional routes again. Look at route options. So if you wanted to avoid highways, toll roads, ferries, things like that, you could. Let's just tap one. And then you could hit this again in order to see other routes that were available. You can also search for additional addresses. So maybe you also wanted to charge up. You've got that flexibility, so you can see what charging stations are available. We've got our end route there. So let's say if we just choose one of these random ones here, you can then add this in as a stop. So you can see there, we're going to charge up and then get a coffee. I think it would kind of make the most sense though, to maybe change this up. So what we're gonna do is edit, and then you can drag and drop. So we're gonna grab a coffee and then do some charging. So let's hit done, and then our stops have been edited. Boom, there we go. Now, one of the nice things here is once you've got a route going inside of the infotainment system here, inside of the cluster screen, you've also got your turn-by-turn directions that'll show up there. So if you take this bottom button and if you tap it, that's going to let you change between different views. So you've got a full mapping cluster view. You've also got just this basic driving assistance view, or more of just like a relaxed type of calming view. But you can see your turn-by-turn directions there, which is great. And then inside of the head-up display, so if you've packaged yours out with the head-up display, you'll also see your turn-by-turn directions there. If you wanted to cancel the route out, you just tap exit, and then it's either going to remove the next stop, or you can completely exit navigation. But if you wanted to add in multiple stops at addresses, you can. You can tap this in order to be able to show different things. So do you prefer to have satellite or terrain view? 3D options, you can do a global avoid, so avoiding highways, toll roads, ferries, things like that. You can edit your home or work address, so the benefit there, you'd be able to hit the voice command prompt and say navigate home, navigate to work, etc., and it'll navigate to whatever addresses you have saved. There are offline maps that are available there too, and one of the benefits of downloading offline maps is that if you're going somewhere where you won't have an active connection, the navigation would at least still work. But one nice thing is that you can hook your phone up in order to be able to use Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze through the infotainment, which I'll show you in a few minutes. And back up from there, you can mute out notifications. So if you don't want to get any notifications as you're coming to an upcoming turn, do you just want to get like a chime as you come into an upcoming turn, or both a chime and a voice telling you? You can look here in order to change up your perspective views, so the different options there. And then you can also tap this and give people heads up. So if there's a crash, construction, police, so if there's a speed trap, things like that, you can also give other users a heads up, letting them know that there's something going on. And then you can tap the search icon there, so along the side, in order to be able to minimize. And then you've got this. So this icon along the top right side. You've got the flexibility of being able to sign into your Gmail account. One of the benefits is that if you've been on your phone and you've been searching for addresses through Google Maps, it's going to pull up any addresses that you've previously saved or looked for on your phone. Fantastic setting. Some people aren't a fan, but you've got that available as an option. But that's using factory navigation. It's really straightforward inside of this ride. And then you've got a series of options. So you've got your Bluetooth media player. So if your phone is connected, you'd be able to stream audio. You've got your radio available there too, and it's strictly going to be FM. So you don't have the option for AM stations as a default. There are different apps that you can download which would give you AM stations, but you've got your station list there. So you've got all of your available stations based off of your geographic location. So if you know what stations you want to listen to, just star them out and it'll save it as a favorite. When you're on the home screen here, you'd be able to tap in order to be able to change out whatever station that you're in. But then down here, you've also got this little dial, and you can use that in order to be able to adjust your volume. You can also push in if you wanted to play pause. Now, with radio, like regular FM radio, it doesn't actually pause the song. It essentially just acts as a mute button. And then you can also take this dial and go left and right with it, and that's also going to let you change between all of your available presets. So if you wanted to adjust your presets out that way, you'd have that flexibility. But you can also use the voice command prompt. Tune to 97.7 FM.
Sure, playing 97.7.
So you can also tune out to radio stations using your voice. So it's a fairly simple system from that perspective. Hopping back into all of our applications, SiriusXM is available there too. So no AM, but you've at least got Sirius. And hopping into our SiriusXM stations here as it loads, you can hit there in order to be able to save the station. You can see what related info is available. You can tap this in order to get a notification for either the song or the artist. So if you're a big fan of the song or the artist, if it's playing on any SiriusXM station, you would get a heads up that it's playing, and then you'd be able to tune to that station. You can search for different stations. You can look at your SiriusXM information there too. Subscribe as necessary. Play pause. Now, because this is SiriusXM, the play pause rocker down the middle, that actually will pause live radio. You can change between all of your different stations there, and then you've got all of your presets for SiriusXM. If you wanted to save a preset, you could either tap the star or simply push and hold, and that's going to save it in there. But it's relatively easy using SiriusXM. Dropping down there gives you all of your different category views, so sports, news, etc. Look at your For You, your collection of different favorite stations, history, and things like that. Hopping into our applications again, next up is going to be adding in a phone. That's going to go ahead and start off on the iPhone side of things. So we're just going to go to Bluetooth. And then on your device, you're just looking for Polestar 3 to show up. 14 Pro, pins match up, so let's go ahead and pair. Do you want all the contacts and favorites to sync up? This is not my car, so I'm going to say no to that one. If it was yours, you could obviously say yes there, and you can stop here. So you've hooked up over Bluetooth, so you'd be able to make phone calls, and you could also stream audio right through the infotainment system now. But you do also have wireless CarPlay inside of this ride. All you have to do is tap Use CarPlay, and then you just have to accept that information. If you hit decline there, you just wouldn't be able to use CarPlay. But we are now fully connected. So you can see here, we've got our, as that goes away, Bueller, there we go. So you've got your home screen here. I just love its full screen, utilizes everything. It looks beautiful. Now, you've got a series of different apps, and then you can swipe across in order to get to the home screen or back. Now, this screen is kind of customizable. You're always going to have whatever map was open last, and then from here, your search box and your audio box will always be there. If you have a calendar notification coming up today that hasn't passed, that would show up there. If there was no calendar notification, the search box would be stretched across the top there. You can tap here to get back to this icon view. You've got your current time along the bottom, your map that was open last, audio application, and miscellaneous app, and then your current connection and battery levels. You can swipe across to get to all of your available icons. And then if you push and hold the voice command prompt on the steering wheel, that is going to bring up your Sirius. That'll bring up your Siri assistant. From there, you've got Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze that are all available inside of the ride. I am personally a bigger fan of using Waze because, you saw it in Google Maps built in here. As you go to drive, if there are speed traps, hazards along the road, things like that, people are pretty good at marking that stuff off. And you can mark things off yourself there too. So lots of options. You've got Flow, which is a charge app, ChargePoint, etc. Live One's a radio app. You've got a series of different settings available, so putting into driving focus, but you can also adjust the wallpaper. So maybe you have a color scheme that speaks to you a little bit more than the default. You'd have the flexibility of being able to adjust out that wallpaper if you wanted to. And then you can also customize the layout of these apps. So what you're going to do, on your phone, if you go to your settings, General, and then CarPlay, just find your vehicle. So you've got your Polestar 3, you can forget it, or you can customize. But let's say if you can't even get to this point because CarPlay is just not working for whatever reason, check down in the description of this video for a little walkthrough on some common CarPlay fixes that you can try. But what we want to do here, if you wanted to adjust these apps on the outside, you're just going to drag and drop in order to be able to adjust out the icon layout. Anything with a minus next to it, you can actually remove it from the screen. But let's say if you've played around with the layout too much, you don't like what you've done, along the top right side of the phone, there's an option for reset. So you just tap reset, reset, and that just brings you back to the factory default icon layout. You can tap here in order to go back to the home screen, tap your application there again in order to hop back into your phone list here. Now, it's saying that I'm not connected because I'm connected over CarPlay. So CarPlay is connected over Wi-Fi versus Bluetooth is going to be for streaming audio and for phone calls. But connecting through CarPlay lets you do both. Hopping back to our applications there, if you go into your settings now, you've got all of these different options. But if you go to connect, you've got Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. So if we go to our device there, you've got the phone that's connected to Apple CarPlay. You can easily disconnect there. So what we're doing is disconnecting from CarPlay. And then, there we go. Oop. Perfect. So what we've done is we've disconnected from CarPlay and we've hooked up just over our phone. So if we go back connect, Bluetooth, you can see I'm now connected over the iPhone specifically for phone calls. I could be there for audio there too. So you can kind of do a little mix and match there. So if you want the phone to only be used for phone calls or for audio, you'd have that flexibility. But that's how you set up Apple devices inside of the Polestar 3. Setting up Android devices is pretty simple inside of Polestar vehicles. What we're going to do is hop into our applications there, and then phone. Now I currently have the iPhone connected. If there was no phone connected, you just launch in, but we're going to tap here in order to get back up to this screen. And then on your Android, all you're going to do is look for, there you go, Polestar 3. And we're just waiting for that to pair up. Pin numbers match up, so let's go ahead and pair. There we go, and we're connecting. Do you want to allow access to contacts and messages? This is not my car, so I'm saying no to that one. But you're now fully connected over your Android device. So you'd be able to make phone calls and then also stream audio. So you can select which ones you're going to be connected to. But it's really easy to do. Now, here's the thing. As of right now, you only have the option for Apple CarPlay inside of the ride. So there's no Android Auto support as of yet. Now that said failed just because I selected no. So no Android Auto support yet. It's supposed to be coming, but as of the time of shooting this video, there's no Android Auto support. But if there was, it would be wireless, the same way what we're looking at for CarPlay there. Now you can tap the icon there if you wanted to connect to phone calls. So now I'm connected to the Galaxy device for phone calls and for audio. So if we hop back into our phone now, I'm connected to the S9 Plus. You've got your recents, contacts, keypad, or some additional options for your start screen or the order. So when you first launch into your phone, what screen do you want to be there as a default? So it's going to default to either favorites, recents, contacts, etc. Or you can tap this in order to swap phones out. So you do have the flexibility of selecting one phone for something different. So maybe you wanted one phone specifically for phone calls, one phone for music. You've got the flexibility to be able to do it. You can tap edit here in order to be able to delete phones. You just tap delete and forget, delete and forget, and you're set to go. But it's that easy setting up Android and iPhone devices inside of Polestar vehicles. From here, you've got your different range and trip information, so you can see what's going on with your range. Now, in a new Polestar, you're going to get the factory range, so it's essentially the maximum amount of range that you can get inside of the vehicle. But as you start to drive, you'll notice that your total range is going to update. It's going to be based off of your total driving habits. So if you're a little bit more of an aggressive driver, you'll use up a little bit more range. So that's just going to reflect dynamically as you go. It's going to let you know how much you're using as of right now, and then where is that energy usage coming from? So your speed, driving style, and climate. So all of this information is going to have an impact on your overall range. You can also optimize your range, which is going to essentially disable a few things in order to get the best possible range inside of the vehicle. You can look at your total range history too. So looking at all of these different distances that you've traveled, how good has your range been? And what have things been from? But you can see here, I mean, the majority of range in the last 20 kilometers, let's go the last 100. The majority has all been through driving. Battery care, electronics. So if you've got the wireless charge pad going, phones connected, different things going, etc., it's going to use more, but you can see most of it is coming from actually driving. You can see your trip counters there too. So current trip versus since charge and last reset. So current trip is from when the vehicle was last turned on versus your last charge. So when you fully charged up or last charged up, how far have you gotten? And then your last total reset. You can tap into any of these options to get to this total information where you can also reset. But, I mean, you saw there, you get different options for how your total trip counter is going to be showing up. Tapping this is going to bring you back up to this screen. So you've got your Google Assistant there. You can push that. You can hit the voice command prompt lightly in order to bring up your assistant, but you can do so many things. Hold on, watch this. Change fan speed to 1.
All right, changing the fan speed to 1.
So you could adjust out climate, you could adjust out fan speed, and so many things using your voice. That's just one of the added benefits. Again, get used to that assistant because this is a big touch screen and there really aren't many physical buttons. So being able to change stations, navigate, things like that using your voice is incredibly useful. We've seen Google Maps. If there were different messages available through your phone, those would be available there too. You've got full YouTube video playback support through the infotainment system directly. So it's not available through CarPlay, unfortunately, but if you're parked, you would be able to watch videos if you're just kind of waiting. I'm not biased here whatsoever. Cars with Steve. Oh, look at that. So I've got quite a few fairly useful ones. If you've got an internal combustion vehicle, something with paddle shifters, manual mode, things like that, that is a great video to watch.
You're in an automatic transmission, whether that's a car, truck, or SUV, is it very...
So you've got the flexibility of being able to watch videos, but the second you shift out of park, that's obviously not going to work. But it's pretty neat that when you're parked, you've got the flexibility of watching YouTube videos right through the infotainment system. Phenomenal. You've got Apple CarPlay there, a series of different settings, which we'll touch on last. And then you've also got, wrong one, your journey log. There's performance here too. So your performance option, you can see your G meter and then also your vehicle launch speeds. So if you're kind of pushing the performance of this car a little bit, you can see what's going on here. When you get into the performance version of the ride, it gives you a little bit of a boost in power. It is a heck of a lot of fun. And then these last 3 apps are all apps that I've downloaded. So Waze is not standard, Angry Birds, Car Fireplace, things like that. Those are all apps that you can download directly to the screen through the Playstore, which I'll show you in just a second here. So if you're just kind of waiting, killing time, waiting to pick somebody up, you've got the flexibility of being able to play games right through the infotainment system here. I mean, that's pretty cool. Back home from here, squirrel, you've got your car fireplace and then download apps. So this is where you're going to download additional things to the vehicle. So if you wanted to download Google Chrome, so you wanted to be able to search the web while you're waiting, you've got that flexibility. There are all sorts of different apps that are available, streaming different types of audio, so streaming different favorites. Do you want Tidal? Do you want to use, let's see, Open Radio is an excellent one. Opens up to FM radio stations across the world. You've got different options for tune-in radio there. If you want AM radio, RadioNet's an okay one to use. iHeartRadio's there, Live One, which is just a basic radio app. There are so many different app applications that are available. So you can use some of them through CarPlay, obviously, but being able to go through games and things like that through the infotainment system, I think is also pretty useful. And then you've got all of your available settings. Ooh, the one thing I didn't touch on, your user manual. So if you're getting weird messages in the little cluster screen, you want to know about charging, things like that, you can easily search through the manual this way. So if this video didn't help out, you've got the option of navigating through your user manual that way. And then your settings. So many things. You've got your basic shortcut screen here. So you can hit this button along the very bottom in order to pull up all of your available shortcuts. You've got your light options there. You can adjust out the brightness of the infotainment system here. Your lights, though, this is where you're going in order to adjust things out. So you've got your interior lights with interior light color. So you've got two different options for your different color there, essentially for like an ambient light. And then you've got different options for your lighting. So you're in auto mode, you've got your different headlamp modes or turning them off. You're in the auto mode, though, the majority of the time. And with the auto mode, so your left stick there, if you were to push away, that puts you into an auto headlamp mode or high beam mode. So what that means is that if the vehicle recognizes high beams are needed, it flips them on automatically. Now, you can see here, I'm flipping, but it's not actually turning on the high beams, and that's because it's the daytime. But at night, you push away. If that's needed, it brings them on automatically. But if you wanted to permanently lock your high beams out, tap this button. And then your left stalk, push away in order to turn the high beams on, push away again in order to turn them off. But it's just that when you're in the auto mode, so the auto mode like we're in right now, you wouldn't be able to permanently lock your high beams out. If you were to push away to go to the auto mode, it also puts you back into the auto headlamp mode. I mean, that's pretty good from a basic safety perspective, but you've got the option of adjusting through that way. You can toggle your fog lamps on or off. You can adjust the screen brightness. You can also enter in a screen cleaning mode. So if you wanted to be able to wipe the screen down without it moving between options, you can start there. And then you can also adjust out the head-up display. So head-up display there, you could toggle the whole head-up display off if you wanted to, but toggling it back on, you'd have the flexibility of then using the pad along the right side of the steering wheel here. So we're using the buttons this way in order to be able to adjust out the head-up display. So we can bring the head-up display up or down this way, and then you can also adjust brightness this way if you want. So the touchpad there is pretty neat. Toggling it off, and then while we're here, we may as well go through some driving adjustments. You've got your steering wheel that could also be adjusted this way. So same idea. You're going to go up, down, backwards, or forwards. So it's a multi-way adjust for the steering wheel, full telescoping, and then just release once you've got that perfect position for the steering wheel. And it's the same thing for the side mirrors. You can go left versus right mirror. Same idea. We're going to use these buttons in order to be able to adjust out the mirror position. So easily moving it up or down, left or right by using the pad this way. And you've got the same thing, so left versus right mirror. And then once you've got that set up, just go back and then that's going to save it into your individual driver profile. Now, what you can also do is adjust your driver's seat the way that you'd like to. So you've got this little button along the outside, so you can go forwards, backwards, up and down with it. But there's also a button in the very middle. If you wanted to be able to adjust out individual elements of the seat, you'd have the flexibility of being able to do it. Like, there are so many options here, including the option of going into a massage chair seat. So you've got the option of looking at a few different options. So boom, A, B, C, D. So there are different, oh yeah, like a lumbar support. Oh, that feels good. You can have it going faster, slower, adjust the intensity, and then go back to your driver adjustment screen from there. You've got your driver adjustments, which we've already seen. So the side mirrors, steering wheel, head-up display. Your driver adjustments, you can open and close the trunk from the inside there. You can adjust the sensitivity of the windshield wipers there too, but you're also going to control that using the stick along the left-hand side. So you've got it obviously for your blinkers, flashing at your high beams, but along the outside there, you've got this. So you can move this rocker up or down in order to be able to turn on those wipers. So very simply that way. But along the bottom, you've got a few other ones. So you've got your front versus rear. So if you were to just push once, like a light, it's just going to give you a wipe. But if you push and hold, that's going to get the wiper fluid going. And then it's the same thing for the bottom. So you tap, that's going to be for the rear wiper. You've got the option of dropping the glove box here. So there's no actual button on the glove box. So if you tap that, down she goes. You've got a series of different car settings that are available here too. Starting off with drive, you've got your, I love the way they worded this, creep. So where that one comes into play is if you've come down to a complete stop, you take your foot off the brake pedal, it's going to very slowly creep you forward. So you can toggle that one on off. You can turn your traction control off, specifically for sport mode there too. You've got the option of raising or lowering the vehicle. So you can do that from the inside. You can also do it from in the trunk. So a big benefit there is that if you needed to lower the trunk to get some things in, if you're doing some lighter off-roading, you can also raise the vehicle up that way. And then you've got your power delivery. So you've got your range versus performance. So this one does have the performance upgrade, which is why that's available, but that's going to give you the best possible performance inside of the ride. And then your steering wheel feel, so light, standard, or firm. So light, you have to throw it a little bit more in order to turn. Standard is just your basic standard there, and then firm tightens things up a bit. So it just becomes incredibly responsive as you go left, right. So if you want a little bit more of like sporty, aggressive driving, you want to go for that firm mode. And that's the same thing for the suspension. So do you want the suspension to be a little bit more nimble, so a little bit more play with the body, or firmer, so again, tighter if you're going around bends and corners and things like that. And then your one pedal drive off or low and then standard. So what that one means is if we are in standard, if you take your foot off the accelerator pedal, the vehicle slows down fairly rapidly, but you can have it at different levels there. And then that all kind of ties into this part of the cluster screen there. So you've got your little power gauge. So as you put your foot down on the accelerator pedal, this goes up. As you go to brake, regenerative braking, it's going to go down, and it looks slightly different depending on which screen that you're in. So with this minimalist view, you actually get either power or charge as you go to brake or speed up. It looks pretty neat as you drive, but I'm typically not a big fan of one pedal drive, but you can adjust that setting out if you'd like. There are a series of different assist options here. So you've got your pilot assist. So with pilot assist, that is going to be for adaptive cruise control with steering assist or lane change assist. So the way that these work, with your cruise in general, as you're driving, you push the stalk down completely, and that toggles the system on. You then use these buttons in order to increase or decrease your speed. So you can push up. So you click up to go up to the nearest 5 or 0, click down to do the opposite, or if you push and hold up or push and hold down, that'll increase or decrease 1 kilometer, 1 mile per hour at a time. There's steering assistance. So what that means is that as long as the vehicle recognizes the lane markings, it keeps you perfectly balanced in your lane. So even if your hands are off the steering wheel for a brief second, keeps you perfectly around bends. After about 10 seconds, you get a little message in the cluster screen telling you that steering is required. So you've got to put your hands back on the wheel. And then there's lane change assist. Where that one comes into play is if you're cruising on highways, interstates, you'll see a little message pop up on that side of the cluster screen. So it's essentially going to look like a few lanes with arrows next to it. From there, you would just tap to go left or right. The vehicle is going to check to see if there's anybody in the lane next to you, and then it's automatically going to change lanes for you. It is a great system. So you can toggle these safety systems on or off. Do you want to get your roadside information inside of the cluster screen there? I'm not a fan, so let's turn that off. And then there's your lane keeping aid. So you can see when we toggle that keeping aid off, you get a little warning message inside of the cluster screen. But that lane keeping system, the way that that works, if you start to veer over into another lane without signaling, it nudges you back into your lane. And then distraction, if you start to veer over too many times without signaling, you're showing signs of drowsiness, things like that, you'll get a little message telling you that you should probably take a break. There are a whole bunch of different charging options that are available inside of the vehicle. So you've got your basics, so you can see your total range there. Charging limit, what I'd normally recommend, if you're not using the charge tomorrow, limit yourself at 80%. If you're going on a distance trip, 100% is okay, but if you're just regular day-to-day driving, keep yourself at 80 in order to protect the integrity of the battery. If you're charging up, whether that's at home or at a public charging station, if you're running into charging issues, adjust your amp limit. Because what that's going to do, it's going to slow down how fast the vehicle is going to charge up. But sometimes if you use a public level 2 charger, it might not charge your vehicle up. So you just adjust out your amp limit until charging kicks in. And then you can also add in charging schedules. So where this really comes into play is if we dive in here. Let's say if you have a tendency to get cheap electricity rates between 7 o'clock, 7 to 7:30. You can add in a charging schedule, which means that it's only going to charge up during that time. And then you can also add in a charging level. So when is the vehicle actually going to start charging up? And then you just tap done, and that brings in that available schedule. So you can now dive back into that schedule if you want to, so you can edit it out or toggle that schedule off if you'd like. And then if you've got a charge cable connected, you'd also be able to lock the charge cable in so people can't just unplug it. And then there's some advanced charge settings, which there's nothing exciting there. You've got some sound settings available. So stage versus room. So do you want more of like an immersive audio experience? You can have it focused just on the driver, the full front row, or the rear seats, or all. And then you can adjust this out, adjusting at your treble, mid-range, and bass. So I've got this zeroed out, but what I've found so far, the treble up a few points, the bass cranked a bit, and the woofer up one works well for me. But what I'd recommend here is play one of your favorite songs, and while that's playing, adjust that out until it sounds perfect for you. And then you can also adjust out your equalizer with your different values here. So same idea, adjust this out until it sounds perfect for you. Once it does, save your settings in. You can adjust out your volumes for everything. Your media volume, ringtones, your assistant, navigation. So if you don't want your nav settings or your nav volumes to be high, you don't want your notification volumes to be up there, you can adjust this out globally for the vehicle. You've got different connection options, so either Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. So do you want to turn Bluetooth off completely so people just can't even hook up to the vehicle? Or Wi-Fi, toggle on off. So if you wanted to be able to connect to your Wi-Fi at home in order to either download apps or maps and things like that, you'd have that flexibility. There's options for your privacy. Let's see, this is probably going to be a little bit more advanced than most people. For most people, but you can disable all of your different privacy settings. You can control the microphone too. So you've got your Google Assistant there. Do you want that allowed, yay or nay? So when you hit the voice assistant that way, does it even let you do that, yes or no? Let's see, you can view all, so which apps are actively using the microphone. You can say which applications have access to use your location. The majority of them, like Google Maps, actually need your location to work effectively. You can control app permissions. So if you didn't want certain apps to use different parts of the system, you could. There's different information, so you can delete your profile or do a full factory reset. There is a way to do a soft screen reboot. So if the screen's giving you problems, I'll show you how to do that one towards the end of the infotainment walkthrough. Let's see, and then there's an ads manager. So if you're using Google Maps or other map applications, you might be shown suggested locations, things like that. That's where that ad manager comes into play. Series of controls, which you can put yourself in a tow mode or jack mode. You can adjust out your steering wheel, lights. Locking is a useful one. So you could adjust out, so child lock, which means that people in the back seat can't open up the doors or windows. Occupant locking allows the vehicle to be able to lock while people are inside. So if you're leaving your furry friend in with the climate on for a few minutes, you've got that flexibility. Do you want to automatically lock the doors when you go to drive away? When you walk up towards the vehicle, do all doors become unlocked, or is it just the driver's door? So that one's really good from a basic safety perspective. Do you want the door to automatically unlock as you approach, or do you want to have to use either the key card or the fob in order to be able to unlock the door yourself? Do you want the vehicle to automatically lock when you leave, or do you want to have to tap in order to lock yourself? Same idea, get it to auto. Do you want to get lights to come on as you approach, which look pretty neat at night? And then when you go to unlock and lock, do you want to get some sort of a notification, so light or sound? I say at least a sound, so you know that the door is locked for you, but you can toggle those off if you really don't want them. You can adjust out all of your mirrors and wipers, so your wiper settings. And then more, which gives you the option of opening up your trunk, glove box, and then toggling the wireless charge pad on or off. There's some basic system info for Google directly. So your ads manager, password manager, there's nothing exciting there. And then your system info. Big ones here are going to be measurement units. So with your measurement units, do you want to be in either miles or kilometers? So as we move through, you can see there, this is one of the added benefits of it being this little digital cluster, is it just updates everything so easily. Do you want to show your speed in miles, kilometers, etc.? And then your temperature, do you want to show that in either Celsius or Fahrenheit? So you've got storage info. Because you can download different apps, you can see how much system space you've got available. 64 gigs is pretty good. That should hold the majority of apps that you download. Let's see, there are reset options. So you can reset the network, reset your infotainment information, so that full factory reset. And then some basics here. Now, actually one thing while I'm still in this one, so with your reset, so if the infotainment system's ever giving you problems, so Apple CarPlay is not working, maps have frozen up, or the infotainment has frozen up on you and it's not working, you can do the full factory reset, but that's going to wipe everything from the vehicle. The best bet for you is to actually take the little rocker dial in the middle there, and you're just going to push and hold, and you're going to hang on to it for probably about 30 seconds or so. So just keep on hanging on. You're going to seem like you're doing it for nothing, but what we're doing is we're entering a soft reboot cycle. So it's very similar to you doing a reset on your phone. So if your phone's getting slow, buggy, things like that, you just do a reset. We're doing the same thing here because this is a big electronic device. So what we're doing is forcing a soft reboot to happen, which should solve the majority of issues that you're facing. And eventually, after about 30 seconds, there we go, look at that. The cluster screen's turned off, the infotainment system's also turned off, so we've entered a soft reboot cycle. After a few seconds, you'll notice that comes back on again. There we go, Polestar. And look at that, the cluster screen is back on. So that should solve the majority of issues that you're facing. If that doesn't work, try that other screen reboot. If that doesn't work, you're going to have to bring it into your Polestar dealership. But this option, like doing that soft screen reboot, should solve the majority of issues that you're facing inside the vehicle. So I know that was a heck of a lot of information, but that's everything that you need to know about the infotainment system inside of the Polestar 3.